Hello, everyone. It's Ange de Lumière. I'm coming for the Energy of the Week reading for week starting on the 9th of February. And we have the card of sleep again. We had this card about 4 weeks ago, so it looks like our sleep explorations are not finished. But before I get started on the reading, I want to introduce myself. For those of you who don't know me yet, I'm a success mentor, an author, podcaster, and I call myself a spiritual lawyer. I help ambitious individuals who care, I would say, too much and who are passionate about what they do, reach the next level of success without burning out thanks to spiritual tools. I'm currently writing a book called Healing Burnout with True Spirituality. True Spirituality happens to also be the title of my podcast, so that's all kind of tying in. And I'm super excited about this new book. There's so much wisdom that's going to go in there, some of it from the podcast, but also some new stuff. So every week I come to do the energy of the week reading so that you know what the universal energy is supporting this week. And it's an area of your life that first needs attention, but also that is going to be probably easier to address than it would normally. So know that you have an ally with the universal energy when you look at these sort of topics. And as I said just now, sleep is on the cards. I have been suffering from sleep disturbances in the past 4 to 5 weeks, so I'm not surprised it's coming back again. I'm managing my sleep the best way that I can by being both flexible, but also not being afraid to use tools to support myself. I want to mention a couple of tools that can work. I'm not saying that they would all work, but what I want to say first and foremost is that usually when our sleep is disturbed, it's not necessarily because we have bad habits. It can be because our nervous system is activated, and that's definitely what's happened with me. I'm not a nervous system specialist. I'm just aware of issues around nervous system because I've suffered from complex PTSD until fairly recently, and occasionally it comes back, especially when there's like a return from the past, which is exactly what happened for me in January. And so, no matter what tools I was going to use, it wasn't going to work because my nervous system was highly activated. Now, there are things that you can do for your nervous system. I would say seek out experts in that domain. What I have recommended to one of my clients was that, and it came from spirit, so I know that it was not from me. So I feel a bit more uh less conscious about sharing it as an expert because, as I said, I don't consider myself as an expert. But what I was shown is the importance for her to use salt um to ground herself, but also to walk barefoot if she could, and if she couldn't, to sort of recreate like a sandbox that she could put either sand or I know that's not as practical for some of you, or grass or something natural that you can walk barefoot on in the middle of the night when you're feeling that you can't sleep. Now, I seem to remember that a while back there were these bathroom mats that were actually made of pebbles that you could also stand on to ground yourself. So it's worth exploring, and I almost wish I'd searched for that ahead of time. However, I didn't know that this card would come up, so I'm just going to very, very quick look at that. So pebble shower mat. You can find when I say not everybody wants to shop on Amazon, but they do have them on Amazon. So um, just look around. They can be really good to ground. Now, obviously, it's even better if you can collect some pebbles and put them in a box and create that yourself from natural materials, and maybe when you go out and about. So that was the first thing that I was shown. Uh, because when our nervous system is activated, our reaction is to try and get out of our bodies. Now, you might think that's silly. How can we get out of our bodies? Actually, our souls are only partially into our bodies when we are walking this earth. Not all of our souls is inside. Some of it is in our energy field. Some of it travels in places because we have lots to do. That doesn't mean that it's not connected to us, but that's also why sometimes people refer to as a higher self. Um, so you can ask for guidance from your higher self. This is a little bit like a segue from the topic of today about sleep. However, you might get some guidance on how to help with your sleep. Now, the other things I recommend, or that people traditionally recommend, is to put lavender in a diffuser if you have lavender essential oil. In the bedroom because it's a very calming scent. However, it's not for everyone. Some people don't like the scent. It's been associated with something else. So always use your own intuition and trust how the advice feels before you take it on board and you try it out. It's quite important not to have too much clutter in your bedroom. And actually, I would recommend to have as little as possible, especially under your bed, because that actually affects your mind. The more clutter you see before going to sleep, the more you're activating all sorts of things in your brain. And it's difficult for your brain to relax. So I'm going to put that little bit about clutter in. Now, I do realize that for some of you, it's really, really hard to deal with the clutter because it's almost like a vicious circle. And in that case, I would ask the universe to send you some help and see if you, after that, you see an article online or you hear a podcast episode that actually gives you some guidance around sleep, then take it as a sign from the universe, especially if it comes to the algorithm online, because the universe can use social media platforms to send you the information that you need. It's not just the tech bros that do it with their algorithm, it's also the universe. So that's quite comforting in a way. I always like to keep my videos under 10 minutes. So we have only 2.5 minutes to continue with this theme of sleep. I'm a qualified clinical hypnotherapist. So I'm going to say if proper guided meditation for sleep are very efficient. And if you have an ongoing sleep issue, I would recommend that you try and find a clinical hypnotherapist because it's their bread and butter. But I also want to recommend for those of you who might not have the budget to go for a clinical hypnotherapist, because it is an investment, on Insight Timer, look for something called Yoga Nidra. There are some wonderful free guided meditation called Yoga Nidra that will take you through the whole process of quieting your mind or getting into your body, etc. It's absolutely wonderful. So these are all the little things, but also do not hesitate to reach out for help from your doctor. Insomnia is a medical condition, and there are some things that can be done about it. So I never say just do alternative solutions such as hypnotherapy or essential oils or this and the other. I think it's always important to check with your doctor because there could be a medical issues underneath your sleep issues, and you want to make sure that you've covered these first. Health is important. Other than that, I would say it's important to have a little bit of a routine before you go to sleep. I will hold my hand to say I'm not always the best with that, but reading a book instead of, if that's something that you can do, maybe it can be an audiobook rather than having screen time before going to bed can be beneficial. And that's about it, really, for the advice around sleep. Now, I realize that if you're a parent of a baby or a toddler or a child, your sleep might be interrupted on a regular basis. And I know that it's been really hard for me with my 4 children because they were light sleepers, and it's perfectly normal for them to wake up through the night. I'm not going to give parenting advice other than there's a lot of bad parenting advice around sleep and your kids. So please do some proper research about what is what is true from a scientific point of view in regards to what's the best method to deal with your child waking up all the night. And I'm going to give you some guidance, though. It's that it's perfectly normal for little babies to wake up through the night, and co-sleeping can actually be really beneficial for both parents and the baby. This being said, my advice is more for you at this point, and I will say that the less you start worrying about going back to sleep, the easier it's going to be for you to go back to sleep at the end. And also, you can ask from help from the universe to give you some extra energy one way or another, whether it's through the sunlight or fresh air or something else, so that you can go through your day. I do know what it's like to be sleep deprived. It is no picnic in the park. So this is what I had for you today. If you like the video, please, or if you have a question, please comment underneath or above, depending on what platform you see this video on. And I will see you again next week. Bye for now.